Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone, episode number 132 for the 29th of April, 2011. Hear those bells, folks? Well, a long and happy marriage, William and Kate, getting married today, and I'm not there. Oh well. On this week's Skeptic Zone, we catch up with Maynard and find out more about Maynard. Yes, one of your favourite reporters from the Skeptic Zone, Maynard. We're going to delve into his background, a little chat session to find out more about this interesting man. Following that, I interview Norman Clevenger from the San Francisco Bay Area about local skepticism and, more importantly, local activism. Very interesting interview coming up in the middle of the show. To wrap up the show, Maynard's back again with an interview he did with George Hrab just after TAM Australia, which is sort of went missing for a little while as I was lying on a computer under a dusty cupboard, and we discovered it and decoded it, decrypted it, and it's here now for you to enjoy. Maynard interviews George Hrab. Now, I must tip my hat to my colleague, Dr Steve Novella, who in the past week appeared on the Dr Oz show in the United States. I guess that's going to be shown here in Australia sometime, but you need not wait. It's on YouTube. If you Google Steve Novella, Dr Oz, you'll find it. I'll just play a little clip from it now.
Afraid of alternative health. Why do you not want me to talk about these therapies on the show?
It turns out they don't work.
I totally disagree.
Should you be concerned?
The public needs to get a reasonable information, not just marketing hype.
I just think it's very dismissive of you. Dr. Steve Novella, a neurologist and assistant professor at Yale University School of Medicine. He's an outspoken critic of alternative medicine. Dr. Novella, let me speak, if I can, with you.
Sure.
Why are there so many doctors out there, doctors of our viewers, who don't like alternative therapies? Why do you not want me to talk about these therapies on the show?
Well, the problem we have with the notion of alternative medicine or alternative therapies is that it's an artificial category. It doesn't really mean anything. It exists really to create a double standard. What we think is there should be one science-based, common-sense standard to figure out what therapies work and are safe, and not these artificial categories that are used really to market things, in our opinion, that essentially don't work.
Now, what I liked about Steve's appearance on Dr. Oz is that he did get to say, or he did get a lot of good points in. He really did. But yes, he was behind the eight ball. I know what that's like to be on a TV show where it's sort of, well, a bit against reason and science. And then it's a pity he didn't get the last word, because this is how Dr. Oz signed off the segment.
Right, and if it does work for you, trust me, do not let anybody take it away from you. Dr. Novella, thank you very much. Dr. Winter, I appreciate it so much. Dr. Albright, we're going to be back with you in a second.
Yes, it's the old fallacy of it works for me or it works for you if it works for you. Anyway, it's really worth having a look at this interview, this segment in its entirety, and I'll add a link to the YouTube video in the show notes and in the newsletter. And as promised, I am going vegan. It's day one of my 2-day vegan adventure. And all right, I will admit, it's not as easy to find vegan food as you might think. I had a coffee with soy milk. Yep. But I did have a really nice chickpea and carrot burger. Yes, it sounds a bit weird, but it tasted pretty damn good. Anyway, it's a lot of fun, and tonight I'm going to feast on rice and a nice vegetarian curry. Sounds all right to me. Anyway, thank you, Flex-A-Vegan, for prompting me in this direction, but I think 2 days will be enough. Enough of this waffle. I'm going to have a green tea. That's all right. While you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. I'm here at one of my favourite cafes in Newtown, Cafe 2042 Cafe in Delhi. And I've just had a wonderful cup of coffee with Maynard. Hi, Maynard.
Oh, hello. I'm getting down to the sounds of Ray Manzarek there.
It's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool indeed, although I think the Doors is on a loop. I've heard the same three Doors songs over and over again. I want to hear the end, so I'm reminded of the end of Apocalypse Now. The movie I'll never watch again because once is enough. That's a great film.
I've seen it twice. Did I do something wrong?
Man, it's a bit like Deliverance. You only want to see it once, really. It's powerful enough the first time. Great to be here with you, and let me tell you, Richard's looking trim. He's been to the gym, he's doing a lot of exercise. I reckon he's taken 5 years off his age.
Oh, well, 5 inches off my waist, maybe.
Oh, your waist?
Yeah. I thought I'd have a talk with you, Maynard, because every now and then I think it's good for our audience to learn a little bit more about the people behind the Skeptic Zone, and you're right behind the Skeptic Zone.
Well, it's nice to be asked. I hope this doesn't seem too self-indulgent, and I really wish I did have a proper piece with someone who had something really good to do with science or skepticism to offer this week, but I'm sorry I don't. But I hope everyone's been enjoying Spooky Action at a Distance, and you didn't believe me when I came up with that as the title for the segment originally, did you, Richard? You thought I was just making some bull crappy up.
Well, you remember that day we sat around the table at a pub, and we were writing down all these names for your segment, and then that one came up and you said that's the one I wanted to use.
Yeah, I said Spooky Action at a Distance because that's what I believe what Einstein used to describe...
Some sort of quantum thing?
A quantum act. I think it's...
entanglement or something.
Entanglement. That's what he used to describe entanglement. And I asked the guys from SGU what entanglement was, and they explained it to me, and I still don't know.
Well, that's par for the course of quantum mechanics, I think.
And look, I'm interested if there's any homeopathic practitioners out there that listen to the show that would like to come on the show and be interviewed, or that'd like me to give them a ring. I'd love to chat to a homeopath about the way they do what they do, like I did with Jessica Adams about astrology. I'm very interested in why people are interested in that and why they want to be like that, and how I want them to explain it in a, I don't want to give them a hard time because I don't think they'd talk to you, Richard, because after that, what you did on Today Tonight the other day, you're on the homeopathic hit list.
I fear I am. But that interview you did with Jessica Adams was, we had more comments on our comment page than any other episode of the Skeptic Zone after you did that interview.
Yeah, I'm a friend of Jessica's, and I know she believes in what she does, and I was very happy to talk to her about what she does. And I think it's good for skeptics to have explained to them why people believe what they do, even if you are not on board with anything and you don't agree with what they do. I think it's great to try and find out why they think the way they do. And Jessica has had some hits with her astrology on me personally, and she did make some predictions about you, Richard, which I'm
curious to know about this, but you're not allowed to tell me, are you?
No, and that's also a bit quantum. See, I can't tell you about it, or otherwise it might affect it. In fact, I've told no one that you even know about it. I am the only person, apart from myself and Jessica, who knows about her prediction, and the timescale has a little bit further to run yet, so I'm not going to say a thing.
It's very spooky, Maynard, to know that someone out there has used the stars to predict something about me which may or may not come true soon or later.
Or not soon. I'm just saying the time period hasn't expired yet, so it could be quite a while, Richard, so don't be hanging in there. But I would like to have a chat to a homeopath about why they do what they do. And, and everyone knows what I'm like. I'm not going to be too confrontational. I'm just going to say, explain to me how memory has a water. I mean...
They can explain that too.
Yeah, explain to me how water has a memory, because as a concept it's a bit hard to grip, but there must be some study, or they're trained in it, so obviously they must know why it has a memory, and I'd like to know how it got a memory.
Yeah, you'd think so. Now let's cast our minds way back into the dim past of Australian radio, where we see a young Maynard on Triple J. The Triple J days, of course, is where most people in Australia would certainly remember you from, I think.
That's right. I started in public radio on 2NUR in Newcastle. I then moved to Sydney in the mid-'80s and was working on 2SER, the public station in Sydney. And from that, I did a show called Radio Stupid, and Triple J liked what they heard and put me on Midnight to Dawn on Triple J, and I was doing breakfast on Triple J in the late 80s when Triple J turned into a national network from just being a Sydney station, and till the early 90s, 93 or 94, and Helen Raser and Mikey Rowe Robbins followed me on as the host. And then I went to Sunday Afternoon Fever, a 4-hour show on a Sunday. It was basically celebrating all things dance music and popular culture orientated. We had Rolf Harris on the show. We had people on the show every week. Every week was a special show, and I really loved my time at Triple J.
It's interesting too, because while you were doing all that, you managed to sneak onto TV quite a bit. I seem to remember you popping up on ABC TV often in those days.
I used to work...
Or often, maybe I should say. There's a debate whether you should put the T in the word often or often. Anyway.
And on that very debate, I recommend you listen to the Judge John Hodgman podcast, in which he actually is a judge, and he rules on those kind of things. His latest podcast is You Say Tomato, I Say Justice, and it's all about pronunciation. Have a listen to that one, podcast fans. But you
were on the TV.
Yes, in the mid '80s, I was on the television with James Valentine.
Yes.
On the afternoon show, and while I was on Triple J, I did lots of guest spots on things. It's interesting, people come up to me and think I've been on shows I haven't been on, because I get, in Australia, people confuse me with a comedian called Vince Sorrenti. And,
Vince Sorrenti? They
yes,
confused with Vince Sorrenti?
Yeah, because Vince had a flat top haircut at the same time I did, and they probably saw him on TV more than me, so they see me and they make the mistake of thinking I'm him. It's more embarrassing for him than me, really. And there was also a show called Don't Leave Home Without Your Toothbrush that was hosted by Tim Ferguson.
You were part of that?
No, I had nothing to do with that whatsoever. And sometimes
I didn't think so.
People mistake me as Tim Ferguson from Doug Anthony All-Stars, which, again, he's a much better looking guy than me, much taller than me, and much funnier than me, and much richer and a better career than me. So, again, it's a bit of a bummer for him that he gets mistaken for me occasionally.
Now, where did this whole DAG thing come about? Because you even wrote a book, didn't you, about being a DAG?
That's right.
And what is a DAG for our international audience?
Wow, this is a hard one, because even this term has fallen out of usage here in Australia. It's basically when you are shearing a sheep, where the poo gets stuck to the wool on the back of its bum, those are called the DAGs. And for some reason, that came to mean someone who was happily unfashionable. Uncool probably isn't a great translation.
Happily unfashionable.
Yeah, that's what I always used to call it. Happily unfashionable. You like ABBA, you like velour, you like the Velvet Elvis on the wall. You're very happy with that. You are, it's not kitsch. You're just happily unfashionable, or a bit of a dag.
So, how did you get into dagdom?
Well, I still am one, you know. I mean, like, being a breakfast announcer on Triple J means you are one of the coolest people in the country, technically. But I was never very comfortable with that, and I always like to celebrate retro culture. And at that time, you weren't getting a lot of retro stuff being thrown at you all the time. It was the rise of the people doing cover bands, and that kind of stuff was happening to my generation, and you weren't getting... and also dance music was big, so I was able to mix, the sounds of. Let's pick an artist that would be really Guru Josh, with a bit of KC and the Sunshine Band. So you had the best of everything on the show, and I'd play about once every half hour. I'd play an oldie track of something like that, and I was running a club called the Mad Club at the time, which was basically a food fight with someone DJing, and that was me. You can look at Mad Club with a double D on the internet, and you'll see me throwing all sorts of things all over the place, setting fire to the floor, and doing all sorts of things you can't do in a nightclub now because of health and safety regulation, because apparently throwing things at people in clubs and setting fire to them is in some way dangerous.
Yeah, well, we have to fill our audience in. We are in this lovely cafe, and it's a favourite of young mothers. As you can hear by the screaming of little children.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why I am a confirmed bachelor, which doesn't always mean you're gay, by the way, doesn't always mean that. But they're having a great time over there.
Well, the mums and the bubs over there, there's a whole table full of babies now. Wow.
And I'm always jealous of babies, because when they're not screaming and they're having a really good time, it looks like they're having a really good time beyond what anyone any older could possibly have, even if they're on drugs or something. Because anyone who's seen a kid having a good time, they just have a great time. So I'm sort of jealous of that as well.
Now, getting back to Dag, Maynard, what happened to Dag? Where's Dag gone, and who's Daggy now?
Well, as I wrote in Maynard's Guide to Dag and Maynard's Dag quiz book, of which they sold about, 20,000 copies all up or
Who
something.
published that? Was that the ABC?
No. I think it was Alan Unwin or someone like that. And by the way, just because I've published 2 books doesn't mean I'm a writer. I cannot write to save my life. As anyone who has seen my work on any of the ABC websites I write for, I cannot write. It's one of those things, I don't pretend to write. And as long as I'm not pretending to write, I think that's a good thing.
I found one of your books, and I had you sign it. We sent it to Brian Dunning.
Well, Brian Dunning, there's a
dag.
No, there is a case study in dag. I mean, look, he looks great. He's got the square, he's got the Roger Ramjet jaw happening there. He's a very good-looking man. He knows his stuff. He can tell a great story. But, man, he's a dag. He really is. I mean, in fact, he is upsetting the children here. The reason that those kids are crying is because they're listening to a couple of old Skeptoids. When they make that noise, that's when he goes, I'm Brian Dunning from Skeptoid.com, and the kids just cut loose with the crying.
So now we jump into the TARDIS and we come to the year 2011, Maynard, and you found a great interest in skepticism.
Well, that's right. I don't like to call myself a skeptic because I do have a lot of woo tucked away in me, and I'm pretty forward in admitting that, I like the concept of UFOs. Pretty much every time I see a Rich, I talk about some new sighting or something that has fired my imagination, and you hose me right down.
But you've pointed various documentaries in my direction. I know what I saw.
Yes, that's right. And I think there's something going on there, and I would point people to a book, an Australian book I'd recommend to anyone who's interested in UFOs and believe or not in them, is Martin Plowman's book that I mentioned a few weeks ago here on the Skeptic Zone.
On episode number 123 for the 25th of February.
The UFO Diaries, and basically he's gone around to a lot of anomalous places around the world where things have happened in the past and continue to happen, and he's just basically recorded what the people who live there say about the events. And he thinks that, even if, it's not some technology from another planet visiting us, it's something that's worthy of study, even if it's a psychological hallucination everyone's having. That's right.
Now, it was a great interview. Again, if people go to episode number 123, if you haven't heard that interview Maynard did with Martin Plowman, it's when you rang him up at the maternity hospital, wasn't it?
That's right. His wife had just given birth, yes. and there was a lot of confusion over who I was, or whether there was an alien abduction involved or something like that. But, we got through, and it was a great interview. And again, it's good to see some Australian ufology coming forward as well, because I like talking about anomalies. I think anomalies are really interesting.
Or spooky action, we might say.
Spooky action, close or at a distance. The problem I have with hanging with you guys, as I've been doing for almost a year, about a year now, is that you all seem to be quite knowledgeable in your various fields of interest. You're good with the magic, and you're good with an overall skeptic thing. Dr. Raichi has got her cell biology, and all you guys know what you're doing. You're all university trained. Except you're not. You're just
No, I'm just a bum.
I believe you're what they call in the business a talented amateur.
That'll do.
Yeah. But myself, I see, I'm always aware that I haven't got the technical background in a lot of what I'm talking about, so I'm careful in what I'm saying because, for a living, I look like an idiot. So I don't need to do it on my own time as well.
Well, I'm not going to make any comments there. Now, Maynard, you're still very active, of course, out there in Radio Land and on the internet.
That's right. I do stuff for the ABC where I work as an online goose. That's my official title.
Goose.
Look, and to actually show you what the ABC...
He's reaching into his wallet.
How valuable here's the card they give me.
Now, Maynard has given me his business card, which is handwritten.
Yeah. They've just given me the ABC logo and a space to write my own name and phone number there. So whenever I meet people for business purposes, I go, hang on, I'll just write in my... And by the way, my handwriting can make a birthday card look like a death threat. It's the writing of a 4-year-old child. It's like, happy birthday. And if you don't know it's from me, go, oh, my goodness, how much longer have I got? The call's coming from inside the house. It's like that when you get a card from me. I've got that bad writing.
And now, Maynard, of course, you're popping up on YouTube lately. We've done some fantastic reports, one at Sexpo and one at the Armageddon Science Fiction Festival, and people can check those out at Skeptic Zone podcast channel on YouTube. They were great fun.
Oh, look, it covers a lot of my interest. Adult movies and science fiction. I mean, really, come on, guys, come on, girls, come on, everybody, come on, hermaphrodites. Let's admit look, Sex Trek 1 to 5 is look. I've actually just got a tweet here from Dana DeArmond, who lists herself as the internet's girlfriend, and she's saying, why isn't there a weird science porn parody yet? Well, there is. There's Sex Trek, which isn't very good, and this sure ain't Star Trek, starring Sasha Grey. I don't know how you will feel about that, but yes, there is sci-fi porn. What I want is musical porn. There's only 1 or 2 musical porn films out there, and the thing is that they're pretty, look, they're as good as like Footloose looks in retrospect.
Well, they've got a good beat, you could say that.
That's for sure. Look, I think I'm getting off the topic a bit here. But yeah, and look, basically, and I have fun with my own little podcast. I interview people. I just spoke to Greg Fleet, an Australian comic who's bringing his show Tie Dye, which is all about a horrible time he had in Thailand when he went there as a stupid tourist a couple of decades ago. He was basically wandering around Thailand, waving his credit card, going, "Who wants to have drinks with me?" And he ended up sort of being kidnapped and threatened his life with an axe. And
what a surprise!
And basically he got a really good stand-up routine out of it. So if you're in Sydney, I recommend you go along and see that at the Factory Theatre. And that's all on my podcast this week. And also I've been rebroadcasting some of my old stuff. I did a great interview with Douglas Adams.
Oh, that's terrific. No, that's terrific stuff. If you haven't heard Maynard's interview with Douglas Adams, that's just a great interview. Now, where is that living at the moment?
That's living at Maynard.com.au, which is where you can get in contact with me and have that "haven't I seen you before" conversation by email. I'll be happy to prove that I'm not Vince Sorrenti or Tim Ferguson, or in fact Brian Dunning. Although I can say, you're listening to Maynard. You're listening to Maynard's Malaise on Maynard.com.au.
Well, I think Brian Dunning should watch out. His job is under threat. But in the meantime, Maynard, thank you for dropping by to have a chat to the Skeptic Zone audience.
My pleasure. We're going to dig up an interview I did with George Hrab on Cleveland Street, standing in the middle of the road having a chat while waiting for an ice cream.
That's right. After Tam, you interviewed George Hrab.
And George, I want to know where you get your suits. I reckon there's a great second-hand suit place near Bethlehem where you live, and I just want to know what that's like.
Hello everyone, I'm Sasha Pixley, and I'm here to talk to you about Skeptical. That's the 2011 Northern California Conference for Science and Skepticism. It takes place Sunday, May 29th at the Doubletree Hotel in Berkeley. We're going to have some great speakers, including Dr. Eugenie Scott of the NCSC, Dr. Bob Carroll, creator of the Skeptics Dictionary, Yao Man Shan and Mark Edward from the Skeptologists, and many, many more. Tickets are $45, or you can sign up with a t-shirt for $60. For more information, please visit the website www.skepticalcon.org.
And I'm delighted to be talking right now via the wonders of Skype and long-distance internet to Norman Clevenger from San Francisco. Hi, Norman.
Hello, Richard.
It's really nice to talk with you. I'm particularly pleased to talk with you because I understand that you've been somewhat inspired by the hard work that's been going on here in Australia with skeptical activism. And can you tell us a little bit about that and also your involvement with the CFI there?
Yeah, in fact, Richard, I would have to argue that not only your successful attack at the AVN as well as the 1023 campaign really sparked my action. And we created a umbrella group to coalesce the disparate skeptical organizations in the Bay Area. And we've tried to and have successfully had both the 1023 campaign, which organized up to 6 different skeptical groups, and we had over 20 people out on the street actively attempting suicide in front of a Whole Earth store, as well as we did get press. We also are going to be planning our upcoming anti-vax campaign called the Reason for Vaccines campaign.
Now, this is a very interesting campaign you've got here, and I noticed that your website, by the way, it's an interesting website, which is the URL is reason.org, and the 4 is the numeral 4, so it's reason, then the numeral 4, reason.org. And you are particularly interested in this topic of vaccination and anti-vaccination, and you're saying the anti-vaccination. What can you tell us about that?
Well, in particular, in Northern California in itself is a little hippied, but Northern California is particularly postmodernistic and accepting of all sorts of different woo. In particular, we have a lot of schools with incredibly low vaccinated rates. We have vaccines rates as low as 10%.
10%, that's frightening.
So in Northern California, we have school districts with averaging 50% vaccination rates, well below the herd immunity.
Yeah.
In fact, the California state has a new law that's coming out July 1st, which is going to require vaccinations for incoming students next year. That's going to explode the brain of the vaccine movement, or the anti-vaccine movement, the deniers in California, and they're going to lose their mind, and we're going to meet them head on with our Reason for Vaccine campaign.
That's astonishing and good news, of course, to hear. But yes, you're right. Their brains are going to explode with all their conspiracy dreams will be coming true. Their fears of Big Brother, requiring vaccination. They're going to be running around like as we say in this country, chooks with their heads cut off. So you're in for a very interesting ride, I think.
Yeah, up until now, the anti-vaccine movement in California has an incredibly low bar. In order to get an exemption, all they've had to do is download a PDF, sign it, and send it with their kid. In fact, it's easier than getting their children vaccinated.
Really? Wow.
Not only that, we've got a whooping cough epidemic that's already claimed over 12 children's lives. And has sparked this new law, which is going to require vaccinations for incoming students this year.
Is this the whooping cough epidemic? Is this California wide, or is this more, as you're saying, in the northern part of California?
The epidemic itself is California wide, and it has spread. I understand that parts of Colorado has seen it too.
Wow, that is frightening. And of course, our good friend Phil Plate might be able to know more about that, living in Colorado as he does. So your group is not sitting down. You're not just looking at this news and shaking your heads and saying how bad is that. You're actually being very proactive in taking on what I guess will be a concerted effort by the anti-vaccination crowd.
We will. In fact, we're timing this for the end of the school year, to draw attention not only to the parents as they exit the schools, but also to make them aware that the upcoming school year is going to require the vaccinations. We expect pushback. We expect to be confronted at those schools in those hometowns. We are going to be blanketing and canvassing all of the healthcare, pediatrician groups, clinics, hospitals, and other institutions to provide both vaccine awareness, advocacy, and inoculations.
Well, that's excellent to hear. I'm delighted when people around the world do realize that these things aren't going to change, or the situation's not going to get better if we just sit back and let the enemies of reason walk all over us. So I'm very pleased to hear that. Now let's talk a little bit about what else you do there in the Bay Area. And just before the interview, you were discussing with me some of the interesting speakers you get to come along to talk to the people there.
Jay Diamond, my partner who started the Reason for Reason org with me, came from the skeptical movement in London and was so enamored over the skeptics in the pub and the speaker series they had, he forced the community here to adopt it, and we've just loved it. We've now run multiple speakers through it since the start of the year, and we led with an Oprah Winfrey New Network co-host of Miracle Detectives.
Miracle Detectives on the Oprah Winfrey Network. Now, this sounds interesting.
Yeah, she played the Scully to the other Mulder, and she was not the true believer.
I see. That's interesting. She must have been a good value.
She was amazing. Not only was she, a neuroscientist, but on top of that, she's an opera star and a host of that program. She was fascinating. She really delved into true believers, how they thought, what they, how to reach them, and experiences with the show, which were strange to say the least. Our latest speaker was a transcendental meditator.
Oh, wow.
With the TM movement. He was actually a teacher and had been in the cult for over 12 years. He escaped his sanity and has been helping people recover from cults. In fact, he walked us through the history of it, and how those cults work and how they manufacture their belief.
Wow.
But what was really interesting was, the history of the group, those, cult extraction organizations used to kidnap people, take them up into the hills and try to deprogram them.
Yeah.
And now they're using more cognitive therapy treatments and modern science to help, work these guys through their problems. And that was absolutely fascinating. We, of course, are going to be timing the upcoming Reason for Vaccine campaign with a speaker, a nationally known speaker on the anti-vaccine movement as well. So just before our on-the-grounds activism, we will have a speaker targeted for the anti-vax community.
That's good. That's very good to hear. I think these people can make a lot of difference, certainly in providing their unique or their specialized expertise, which is something we all should listen to from time to time, I think. Now, also coming up, of course, we've got something which I wish I could come and be with you for this. This is Skeptic Cal.
So this is Northern California's premier skeptic event.
Ha-ha.
It's put on by Dr. Jeannie Scott, who I think you might know.
Oh, I think, I met her once or twice, I think.
It's the convention for skeptics. It's spectacular. It's going to be twice the size of last year's event. It's Skeptic Cal 2011.
Yeah.
And it's got incredible speakers as well as, the community in itself. I'll be representing Reason for Reason there, as well as CFI, and all of the major local skeptic groups will be present.
That's fantastic. Again, I wish I could jump on the old plane there and come over just for that and come back again. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen this year, but there's always next year, I guess.
Yeah, we can't wait to have you.
Yeah, no, I would dearly like to be there because, as my listeners might know, I spend quite a bit of time in the Bay Area. I know it very well. It's a fantastic spot. In fact, I was there, I think, was it last year I was there, and I was very lucky enough to visit the Mythbusters studio and have lunch with Adam Savage. So good memories of San Francisco, and I keep coming back. Well, there you are, folks. A great example of skeptical activism and some good times thrown in as well. Now, those people in the Bay Area of San Francisco or in California, please visit reasonforreason.org, reason numeral 4, reason.org, to find out more, get in touch and be part of this interesting and, more importantly, this direct action that's taking place. Well, Norman, what a pleasure it's been to chat with you, and you're invited to come back on the Skeptic Zone anytime.
A pleasure, Richard.
Now on Belfast FM, we turn to the personal ads. Easygoing and confident skeptic seeks other critical thinkers for fun, laughter and good times. Must be willing to apply logic liberally and a good listener. Expect something new and interesting every month. Come and meet me in Belfast in Northern Ireland. If this sounds like you, check out my profile on BelfastSkeptics.com. Music by Kevin MacLeod.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
Yes, Maynard here on a typical Friday night in Cleveland Street. Yes, the smell of sugavalaki is blowing up and down the street. I can feel the cool breeze. And yet, as I move into the ice cream store, I see a Malay, a George Malay, although his name is actually George Hrab. Not to be confused with the artist formerly known as Max Hrab, who does a great version of Super Trooper in a 30s style. He's currently, I don't know, talking to a few friends, fans, and well-wishers. People that perhaps owe him money from the trip that they've borrowed off him, and they're hopefully getting it back before he leaves tomorrow. Oh, hi, George. I was just doing an intro just quietly. I was just setting the scene very quietly here at the ice cream shop.
Not that quiet.
Well, I've ruined any chance of having a good night tonight, so we'll have to have an interview fairly shortly, George, when you got a chat?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, actually, you've just discovered something in that cup. Tell us what that is.
Oh, the Nutella ice cream that I just... Nutella ice cream as well as a crunchy almond and fig ice cream, which is... You people know your gelato. I got to tell you.
America's a land of fat people. I mean, ice cream is all over the place there, particularly peanut butter ice cream.
Yes, but the more the merrier? I don't know. No, it's great. No, the Nutella flavor I've never had before. So, okay. Ooh, we're being documented.
Okay.
Proof.
Okay.
Look at this.
Yeah.
So it's like a horrible reality show.
So I believe your middle name is George Social Media Hrab.
That's right. George Twitter Hrab. Yes, my parents were way ahead of the curve.
Hey, you want to go outside in the cool?
Yeah.
Look, the reason I've grabbed George here on Cleveland Street, and the traffic is really busy here, and George, you've done a one-man show round Australia. You've been everywhere. You've been to Canberra, you've been to Melbourne, you've been to places you shouldn't have been. You had that night in the lockup at Bougainville. What was it like?
About that, yeah. Oh, it's nice, and I hope that Bubba does keep writing, because he promised, so that's good.
Now, we always ask this, and it's kind of a really embarrassing question. What are Australians like? How are we different?
Yes, no. Everyone has been, and I know this is not a funny answer, but everyone has been incredibly nice.
I notice you've got Australia written on the back of that card you've got there. It's great to be here in Australia.
Yes. Welcome to Australia. Yeah. Everyone's been incredibly polite and helpful and supportive and into what I do, and it's still very mind-boggling for me, a boy from Pennsylvania, to have a gig in Adelaide and have 100 people come to the show.
And you've also discovered a fact, and we do get traffic noises coming past. I don't live in an ivory tower with a whole bunch of hookers and blow, as much as I have tried to, and I can't afford the rent there.
Right.
I'm street man. So, Adelaide, of course, you've found out a fact about Adelaide that many Australians have got wrong.
Oh, yes. I was told by my lovely Elvin, who was my contact person, said that Adelaide has a reputation for being the serial killer capital of Australia, and apparently this is not mathematically true. There are some very famous serial killers, but the incidence of serial killing is not any greater in Adelaide than in any other major city in Australia. So rest easy.
I can just see everyone rebooking their Christmas holidays now.
Exactly, yes. Hotel rates are going down as we speak.
Now, George, a lot of people might not know who you are, they're listening to. Let's get a bit of an intro to you. Basically, you've sort of come out here and you've been hanging with the skeptics and with the scientific reason crowd, but basically you're a singer-songwriter having a go.
Exactly. From Pennsylvania in the States. Born and raised in New Jersey, went to school in Pennsylvania, and I write songs that are skeptical in nature, scientific in nature, nerdy in nature.
So do you know people that talk like Fran Drescher, the nanny?
I have met people that talk like Fran Drescher, yes, and I usually try to get out of the room as fast as possible.
Wow. Yeah. And look, is it really that rough an area?
It depends where you are, but no, people are people, so why should it be? No,
Depeche Mode.
Very good. People are nice all over the planet. I find in my limited travels, people tend to be very supportive and cool, and just if you treat people nice, they treat you well. So New York is no different than any other city, I would think.
I've got to say, New York would have to be one of my favourite cities in the whole world, mainly because everything's there: the good, the bad, the ugly, the Ronald Reagan, and the Abraham Lincoln.
Absolutely, and it never. If you need to buy shoes at 4:30 in the morning, New York is the place to be. So that's what I love about New York.
And you walk out the door, and you really don't know how your day's going to go. It's an adventure. A a New York minute. Like your life can change in a New York minute. Suddenly you'll just be walking out the door and you'll just, something bad or incredibly good will just happen to you. I don't know. It seems to be almost magical.
Yeah, well, that's kind of life itself, right? I mean, Gene Wilder talked about this once, the actor Gene Wilder. He said his entire day, as he would approach Columbus Circle, which is a large kind of circle in New York City, if he went right, his day would play out one way. If he went left, his day would play out another way. Sometimes it might be the same day. Sometimes it might be totally different. That's something that I really, being a skeptic, I've discovered that over time, that you never know what's coming around the corner, because since there is no plan for you, there is no overseer, at least in my sort of belief system. Something incredibly awesome or something incredibly horrible could happen to you at any moment. And to me, that's just an exciting prospect, and it's the best kind of gambling, that you think you're in a groove, you think you know how your life is going to go. For me, for example, 3 years ago, if you had said we'd be talking here in Sydney, I would have believed you, but I would have thought, okay, this would be unlikely. And yet here we are.
But look, I was just telling you, just only last night, being Christmas, I got a late phone call, from a friend. The French call it the call les bouteilles. And that can change, and as you get older, your reaction to that changes too, When you're in your 40s, you think, what have I got to do tomorrow? Where, when you're younger, you would just run out the door and you wouldn't even lock it, really. That kind of thing. So, your life can change funnily like that. And do you think the silly season can be like that too? Hang on. Do you think the silly season can be like that too? At Christmas time, more unusual things happen, particularly for a performer on stage.
I don't know, I think so. I mean, I think holidays are, in general, just a more fun time. When I love Christmas, even though I'm an atheist, I love it because I love the idea of goodwill towards men. You can never sort of talk that down.
What about transvestites?
They deserve goodwill as well, or a good tip, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, at least 5-10%, depends on what state you're in, I guess.
I guess. What the VAT rate is. Yeah.
Now, you've noticed a few times in our conversation with George, he's mentioned the word skeptics, he's mentioned the word atheist. These are polarising words. Now, as a performer, are these something that you don't worry about putting out on an audience?
And that is within any poster, any description of me. Sort of at the top is skeptic songwriter. I mean, that's the science, skeptic, atheism, atheistic kind of material. I wear that badge very proudly, and I'm one of the people that's trying to change the image of what's associated with skepticism and atheism.
Well, I mean, like sometimes I get the attitude that people think that they're just crackpots with evidence.
Right. Yes. I like that actually. That could be on a button maybe. Crackpots with evidence. Yeah. Well, CWE.
And where do you sit on the whole chemtrails thing, or now as they've been renamed, persistent and I've got to get there. Persistent. Aeroplane traffic contrails.
Because I haven't heard that.
Because as the No Agenda Show podcast will tell you, words matter. So you rename something like that, which you say, that's a chemtrail, people will think you're a nut. But if you go, that's a persistent aeroplane-generated contrail, the word persistent makes it different.
Well, it is all about nomenclature, right? That's what you call it.
Yeah.
It's not the aura, it's the quantum energy field.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's much easier to sell. Yeah.
Now, have you got a song about quantum at all? Because it seems like quantum is such an all-encompassing thing that really no one except 3 people know anything about. So you can write a song about quantum very easily.
I haven't written a song about quantum, and maybe I have written a song about quantum, and they both exist at the same time. Yes. Very good.
Now, George, I want to introduce... look, I've been listening to your album, and... if influences have come up such as, and I know artists might hate this, because when you say influences, people think, you might be ripping them off or something, but no, this is tracks that I've listened to your album that have reminded me of Frank Zappa and King Crimson, of all things.
Yes.
And particularly the title track, Trebuchet, which, cool name, by the way.
Thank you.
If you're going to call your album something, have you ever wanted to launch a diseased body into a mall or something like that?
Well, who doesn't? I mean, if you're going to launch anything, launch a diseased body into a well across the thing,
We were talking about ways to die earlier over dinner, because hell, we're fun people, and wouldn't that be a way to go? Like if you knew, hey, look, sure, I could go to Kevorkian and do that machine thing,
right.
Or build me a trebuchet and just hoik me into the lake.
Oh, I think a trebuchet launched into the side of the Sears Tower or something. That would be the way to go. The higher the better. Keep score somehow.
It'd be a hell of a shock for the people around the water cooler.
That's true, but why not?
What's that? Hit the window there. Just some guy.
It's Johnston. No, it's not.
So that track really goes off. I mean, as a one-man playing that live. That's a toughie to do.
That's a toughie to do, right. That is, I mean, on the album, it's me playing bass, guitar, and drums.
Because you are a funk drummer with the Philadelphia Sound Experiment Infusion double-blind test? Is that what it is?
Exactly. Oh, very good, yes. The Philadelphia Funk Authority is my day job, yes, playing drums with them. So drums are my preliminary sort of passion, the thing I'm really, really good at, or purport to be really good at.
Right, so you go around to people's houses, and if they haven't got a funk license, they're taken away.
Oh, it's revoked. Yeah. Right. They have to buy the temporary funk dispensation from me. Yes.
And we have the great track from you, "Death from the Skies."
Yes.
Now, look, you're looking at that. Oh man, that's got to be a metal track, but no.
No, this is me trying to sort of, you say influences, and artists don't like to be labeled as influence because they get, people say they're stealing. I am wholeheartedly stealing. I steal from as many disparate sources as possible, thereby diluting the theft so as to be less recognizable. But Death from the Skies is one of me trying to be Sly and the Family Stone, essentially. Using words by my good friend Phil Plait, Dr. Phil Plait, who has a great blog called Bad Astronomy.
And you have your own podcast, which confused me at first because your name's George and you had the Geological podcast. So initially I thought you were a geologist.
Nope, just Geologic podcast. Very little geology content, maybe like 2% geology content. Otherwise,
come on. You talk about igneous rocks, you get the chicks.
Yeah, they're going to give you the schist one way or the other, you know? That's the way it works.
So I'll just wait the traffic dies down a bit because this is street. We have traffic noise here. Well, I've got to say, hey, how does that look? Hey, because we love doing this. We are very size comparative. How does this compare to an American street?
It's almost the same color.
Yeah.
It's almost the same width. Mm-hmm. It's just all the cars are on the wrong side. So apart from that, it's identical.
Actually, Americans say that we're a wonderful combination of England and America, because we've got these sort of American kind of cars.
Right. I thought it was more of a combination of England and Asia, actually, especially walking around Sydney.
Oh, okay, because Chinatown we've been.
The Asian influence is just massive. I wasn't ready for that. It's lovely surprise, though.
And so basically, Phil's delivering the bad news on the end of the world in this track.
Phil was talking about the odds of dying by certain astronomical phenomena, whether it's coughing. Yeah. Do a Marvin Hamlish maneuver on you later if you need it.
Yeah.
But
you'll get behind me and go.
Yeah, right, perfect. And then you throw up. So it works out great. No, he's talking about the ways the world could end, whether it's being sucked into a black hole or the sun exploding or being hit by comets or whatever. And I love nerd facts like that. That the fact that you are more likely to be hit by an asteroid or a spare rock floating around than be killed in a terrorist act. I like facts like that. And he was kind enough to record his part. And I just kind of funked out while he's talking about the facts on top of it.
Do you ever mention this to the TSA while you're going through and getting felt up?
Oh, yeah, I do it full voice. I scream, yes.
No. Look, my voice is dying here because of the carbon monoxide. Thanks for coming, and have a great flight home, and I hope you love being felt up on your return to America by the TSA.
Thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. I really appreciate it.
Look, we'll try and organise some feelings for you next time when you come here.
Okay, sounds good. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, this is Jay from the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. And whoa, hold on, whoa! Everybody knows I'm the only reason to listen to the freaking show, right? I mean, if it was up to me, the show would start with this. Yeah, boy! Well, Rebecca would hate that probably, but I mean, I'd rock that. Listen to our show and you can learn about cool stuff like a technological singularity, which is someday when technology progresses so fast that it would make the Industrial Revolution look like a kid's science project. Anyway, come check us out at www.theskepticsguide.org and get your science on!
The wedding bells. You know, I remember 30 years ago staying up to watch the wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Di. 30 years ago. It doesn't seem like that long. Anyway, enough reminiscing. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. Thank you, as ever, to those wonderful people who chip in less than $1 a week to help me maintain the Skeptic Zone. I can't tell you enough. It really does help. It really helps pay the bills to keep the show going and to get it out to you week after week. If you feel so inclined and you do enjoy the show, if you visit www.skepticzone.tv or subscribe to the newsletter, you'll see the links to sign up for less than $1 a week. Cancel anytime. Coming up on next week's show, a report from Sydney Skeptic Camp, and I hope the return of the think tank. I do miss the think tank. Until then, this is Richard Saunders signing off from a wet and drizzly Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.